Gender-neutral product design is designing so that you're not biasing towards one gender or another, and that you're also not specifically calling a gender out, but that you're thinking about the product universally so that everyone can be included. Gendered products can force identities and kind of shape how you see the world and where you see yourself fitting in. If you think about the toy aisle in a department store, you'll see that there is a very clear divide of gender. Products that are designed for boys have a very specific aesthetic, and they also tend to be a little more aggressive. Maybe there's more weapons, whereas products that are designed for girls have kind of themes from the 1950s often, so like salons or kitchens, that sort of thing, and they also have their own aesthetic, which tends to be more on the pink side. That may not actually be what they're interested in, it's just what we're telling them that they're interested in. A gender-neutral product lets kids discover their interests and imprint their personality onto that product and turn it into whatever they want. Designing gender-neutral products starts at the beginning with the concept. The concept is the main idea behind your product and how you tell the story of what it is. There are a few different approaches you can take in thinking about the concept and making your product gender-neutral. The first one is intentionally countering historic perspectives of what is for boys or what is for girls. One example is engineering. Engineering is typically seen as a masculine field, and it's also seen as not creative and also very exclusive. So we make these electronic building blocks. We've made our circuit boards white, and then we flanked them with these candy-colored connectors, which are both fun, but they also serve a purpose in understanding how the system works. The next approach is to look for concepts that are not inherently gendered. For example, if you look at games or music, neither of those concepts are inherently gendered. And at Little Bits, we actually have kits that are devoted to those themes. So we have the Little Bits Code Kit, which focuses on letting kids learn to invent through gaming. We also have kits that focus on music and letting kids invent their own DIY instruments. Customization is really big for us at Little Bits. We find that when kids invent and customize, that they become more invested in what they're building. The Little Bits Avengers Hero Inventor Kit lets kids invent their own unique superpowers and superhero identity. So the plastics themselves that you mount the bits on are neutral colors, so they're white and they're clear. The gauntlet cover itself has slots cut out of it so that kids can add whatever custom materials from their households that they want. So they're sized specifically for cardboard and string, so you can attach egg cartons or 2-liter bottles to it. Stickers, we both provide different colored stickers. We have gold stickers, which we know all kids like because they say it's the color of winning. And then we also provide white stickers that kids can customize, so they can draw their own patterns, they can paint on them, they can glitterify, they can do whatever they want. The last approach that we'll talk about is talking to users to get feedback on your concept. We get feedback from our users in a lot of ways. So on one hand, our marketing team runs a series of tests with parents. So sometimes they'll post concepts on usertesting.com, different ideas, or box mockups to get a sense of what parents are thinking and if they lean towards a gender or not. We actually do weekly focus groups with kids. So we bring 4 to 5 kids into our office every week and we'll show them concepts. So we'll have sketches that they can take a look at, and we'll ask them questions about what is their favorite, what don't they like, and why. Coming up with a concept is just the beginning. But if you nail that concept and you feel like it is truly gender neutral, it will make some of the decisions down the line much easier.
Included in inclusive design is accessibility. Accessibility means designing for disabled people. When you think about it, it can be overwhelming. How can I think of everybody in every situation? Well, you don't have to think about everybody in every situation, but you can take the steps to have a level of understanding from the start. One of the references I like a lot is Microsoft's Inclusive Design Toolkit. Microsoft's Inclusive Design Toolkit showcases temporarily able-bodied people as well as permanent and situational disabilities. For example, they have touch, where they have someone with one arm, somebody with an arm injury, or a new parent. Once you've thought about who could be using your product, you have to think about how they're going to be using your product. So that means thinking about which device they may be using and thinking about their overall experience. So regardless of platform, what you want to focus on when you're creating your inclusive products are, can your users find what they need? Can they understand what they need to do? And can they take action where they need to take action? A good place to begin is looking at the Web Content Accessibility Guidelines, which have recently been updated this year, because when the original guidelines were created back in 2008, we didn't have our smartphone devices. And so a lot of things have changed within the last 10 years. So one place I like to look is called WebAIM. And WebAIM is a great website to look at for general understanding of the Web Content Accessibility Guidelines, as well as they offer trainings and evaluations and reporting. What you can also do is you can use their tools that they have on the site for things like checking color contrast and other things of that nature. WebAIM's Wave tool will actually go through and read your site and let you know certain things that are accessible and things that are not. When you think about accessibility and going through a website, you want to make sure that your users can actually navigate through the site. Make sure that the options for them are very clear and that they can get to where they need to get to with the correct buttons, allow them to go back, allow them to move forward, and allow the user to ultimately reach their goal. I am looking at the Web Accessibility Initiative website. At the top of the screen here, there are two options. You can skip to content, or you could change the text size or colors. This will allow the user full control, which is part of inclusive design. This will allow for a better experience for the user if they can either skip the content or change the text size or colors if the colors on the screen do not work for them. Twitter, you can add alt text to your imagery. So for instance, if I put a post on Twitter and I write the text of whatever happened and I add an image, I can actually put alt text, which means that I can add description of what that image is. I can say that there is a dog looking over the ocean, and I could put that alt text so that if somebody who is visually impaired goes through Twitter and looks at my feed, they can obviously hear the text, but they can also hear the alt text associated with that image that I put up. So if you're looking to get an assessment of your current website or your application, I do recommend that you use some sort of online tool to get some sort of audit. It is always recommended that you get a professional to do the audit, but if you don't have the time, maybe or the money, you can use the tools online. There's Chrome plugins, there's different things that'll be resourced here that you can find. So think about your last project. What's one thing you could have done that maybe would have incorporated accessibility? Thinking about users other than your normal users, potentially. What changes could you have made? Or what could you do in the future to apply some of these accessibility and inclusivity principles?
Today, we're talking about how to maintain your brand's visual language while keeping an eye on inclusivity. There are two things I want you to avoid: tokenism and single campaign strategy. What is tokenism? Tokenism is the idea that you can just throw another user in, sneak them into some marketing material, and not say anything about it. So it would be the equivalent of doing a large campaign and having 20 models and a single one of them being an older person, or a single one of them being a person of color, or a single one of them being a woman. One of the last projects I worked on was a Valentine's Day campaign. Every year for Valentine's Day, we did a big push to market to couples the idea that this product was one that would help men of color take care of themselves. So it was an easy gift for their partner. But every year it was pretty heteronormative. It was usually a black man and a black woman. And although that's very beautiful and very important, in the last year that I worked on it, I asked myself why I hadn't considered using non-heteronormative couples. And so, although we didn't do that exclusively, one of my favorite things we did were portraits of this lovely Brooklyn couple of black men that both shaved their face and their head. It was a really cool moment for me where I started to understand, hey, this value proposition not only can work on people's faces and their heads, but it's not just something for a woman to buy their man. It's something for anyone to buy for anyone else that takes care of their skin. And that expansive thought was sadly, honestly, really revolutionary for me. And I'm kind of sad to say that. Representation is really fascinating because sometimes it's just the psychological barrier of seeing yourself that helps unlock the door to then be excited about using that product. Now, I'm not saying to be exploitative. If it's a user group, if it's an ethnicity, a gender that you know nothing about, I think there's great value in hiring a consultant or someone to your team that can speak to that experience. But by unlocking that authenticity, you then create more opportunities for yourself to have more users. With a product you've already paid to do research and development on, you've already paid to market, now it's just time to shift some of the marketing materials so that it shows everyone that can potentially use it. As you start to change how you want to market to your user groups, you have to be deliberate about it. What does that mean? That means saying to yourself, am I placing this new marketing material, whether it's language, imagery, videography, illustration, etc., simply to appease a concept of a quota? Or am I being proactive and saying, now I want to speak to this user group? That brings me to my second point, single campaign strategy. Your brand, your company has established trust with your users by being consistent and reliable over time. It wasn't with a single campaign. It might have gained some new users or gotten some press and media, but the thing that has made you sustainable over time is being consistent, is being solid, and is being reliable for your customers. So if you're going to market to a new user group, no matter who they are, whether it's an older population, a younger population, different ethnicity, different gender, you need to be committed to not just a single campaign. And even if those returns aren't amazing the first time, you need to be able to step back in and be able to be courageous and confident to do it again, a second, and a third time. Because what you're doing is you're starting to blaze a new trail for not only your company, but also for your customers to come in and say, oh, I believe this product can also be for me. Let's say you're having a hard time thinking of these new customers. Let's do something that we generally like to avoid. Let's think about your competitors. What do your competitors do really well? How's their value proposition different than yours? More importantly, what users are they attracting that you aren't with a similar product? By looking at your competitors, you can ask, how can I better market authentically to this user group that I currently am not doing a great job at? What am I missing? What are my competitors doing well? This should be a really educational moment for you because by looking at a product that's similar to yours, it's easier for you to see how to market to new groups. You shouldn't copy or steal anyone else's marketing materials or anyone else's goals, but just the action of saying, oh, this is being used to market to this group or to this group. You can say to yourself, what am I missing, not only as a marketer, but what are we missing as a company in general? And the power in that is making it easier for you to take those first, second, and third steps into finding new customers and gaining their trust, just like the ones you already have now.
Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, feel free to like and subscribe to stay up to date on all of our latest videos.